Hey, ladies, have you given up on church? Or maybe you've grown weary of where you've been attending. Maybe you've been happy with your church, but you notice some people have left and you're not sure why. Or maybe you know why. Maybe they were mistreated. Church scandals have dominated headlines in recent years, and deconstruction has become a familiar term for people walking away from the church and re-examining their faith. In 1 Peter 4:17 it says, "For it is time for judgment to begin with God's household. And if it begins with us, what will the outcome be for those who do not obey the gospel of God?" Maybe it's time for each of us to re-examine our own church situation. Today we discuss a Remnant Radio episode on how to heal and find a healthy church. Welcome to the Jesus People Sisterhood podcast, a place created just for you, the single Christian woman over 50 who knows there is still so much more ahead. I'm your host, Janine Jordan, Christian confidence coach and leadership mentor based in Alberta, Canada.
And I'm your co-host, Ellie McCormick, a flag certified coach, Christian longevity coach, and life coach in the United States. And if you've ever felt a little overlooked, a little forgotten, or quietly wondered, God, what does the rest of my life look like from here? We understand because we've been there too. We know what it's like to carry dreams that haven't fully unfolded yet, to navigate the unique challenges of singlehood, and to wrestle with questions about purpose, health, and the future. And honestly, we couldn't find a space online that truly spoke to us, so we created one.
This is Jesus People Sisterhood, a place where you are not invisible, you are valuable. Where you are not past your prime, you are stepping into one of the most powerful, meaningful seasons of your life.
Here you'll find real conversations, deep encouragement, and a circle of women who love Jesus and are walking this road right alongside you. Because you carry wisdom, you carry strength, and your life still holds incredible purpose.
So join us as we talk about what really matters, building meaningful relationships, strengthening your health, and growing deeper in your walk with God. And we share tons of valuable information relevant to our sisterhood. We'll share stories, explore life-giving ideas, hear inspiring voices, and yes, have a few laughs along the way. So wherever you're listening from, whether you're in your kitchen or on a walk or sitting in that quiet place, just know you belong here, and let's walk this journey together. Ladies, let's talk about our private Facebook group for senior housing and co-living. Finding the right living situation later in life can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be a solo journey. That's why we created a private group just for this, a supportive community where single Christian women 50 plus can explore house sharing and co-living options together. This group is a place to post your housing needs and wants, whether you're looking for a housemate, hoping to share a home, searching for a room to rent, considering a tiny house, or exploring some other living arrangement that fits your season of life. It's also where landlords and renters can connect directly. Why join? If you've ever wished you could find housemates who actually share your values and faith, this is the place. You'll be connecting with other single Christian women over 50 who understand exactly what you're looking for: companionship, safety, affordability, and a home that feels right.
And you don't have to be a single Christian woman over 50 to join this group. If you have a room, home, apartment, or rental property available for a JPS sister, you're welcome here too. Singles, couples, and organizations with housing to offer are all invited to be part of this community. And here's the truth. A group like this simply can't succeed without a critical mass of people. The more members we have, both women looking for housing and those with rooms or rentals to offer, the more likely it is that real connections and matches happen. Right now, we don't have enough people in the group, and that makes it hard for members to find what they're looking for. Growing this group isn't optional. It's essential to it working at all. So here's what we're asking. If you're looking for housing, join us. If you know someone with a room, home, or rental property to offer, invite them too. And if this group could bless someone in your life, please share it with them. The link to our private JPS Senior Housing Facebook group can be found in the show notes. Welcome to the Jesus People Sisterhood podcast. How's it going up there in Canada, Janine?
Oh, you got to know, Ellie, things are going well. Going very, how about you?
It's doing okay.
Doing okay? Okay, well, I have something to kind of talk with you about a little bit today. I was thinking about how much I love my bedroom. Isn't that a little bit odd? But how much I do. When I was a younger person, I don't think I put as much emphasis on having a place to just be my own, like a place to sleep, a place to read, that sort of thing, relax. So I bought a bed. It was $1 million, Ellie. It was like $1 million, but it has been the best bed. And I've never had matching furniture before either. I never had
Mm.
any matching. No, I've never had like something that matched like a table or anyway. So I bought the whole suite. And up here in Canada, I got it from the brick. And the brick isn't even a really, anyway, furniture is so expensive. It doesn't matter. The thing is, I got it delivered, I put it together, and it was beautiful. And then I painted the room. My sister helped me paint the room, and a friend did too. We got together and sort of did that, and then put some baseboard on. It looked really nice. Bought some lamps, some candles, some things to make it feel cozy. And I put in and it's white. I've never had anything that was like white before either, but it was something that I wanted.
Mm.
Yeah.
It lightened up
And
the room, huh?
it really brightened up the room. I had no idea. I really had no idea. And so the walls are gray, the bed's white. And then I put a pop of like this plum, which is something I hadn't thought about before, but I love it. And I have white drapes. It's just kind of all together. And it's just my little place
Mm.
that I like to go when it's nice and quiet. And
Sounds nice.
well, it is. And the mattress is amazing because, I've always had those lumpy, bumpy kind of mattresses, and we know how important it is to get a good night's sleep. And this has helped. I'm not exactly perfectly there yet, but the bed is a great investment. So, ladies, buy the bed, buy a good mattress, buy a good bed. Forget the other, just do it. Do it. You're getting older and you need to take care of yourself. So, but the other thing, now, we've talked a little bit about frequencies, sound frequencies, and things like that. And I have come to figure out that I like to listen to brown noise. Do you know about brown noise and pink
No.
noise and white noise and
White
things like that?
noise, yes, I've heard of white noise, but no other colors.
Well, apparently there are a number of different colors, obviously, in the spectrum, but I'll just talk specifically about those three. Here's a little from AI as well. So the difference in the pink and the white and the brown noise is the level of power across the sound frequencies. So white noise is equal energy, which is high pitched and is equal across the spectrum. And that's like static, your TV, that kind of
Right.
weird sort of
Yeah.
sound. Okay, yeah. And pink noise is a balanced, softer sound where power decreases as the frequency rises, which means it's something like a steady rainfall, something like that. So
Hmm.
some people like that, yeah. And then brown noise, which I actually prefer, is noise that's like a deep bass sort of noise with heavily reduced high frequencies. So it's more like a thunder, like a rumble, kind of that low sort of sound. And pink noise apparently is best while you sleep. And brown noise is for relaxation. And white noise is to mask other sounds. So that's kind of interesting. And what they found is for the brown noise, especially if you happen to be neurodivergent or an AD or have ADHD, apparently white noise and brown noise are better. And the brown noise actually synchronizes your brain waves, making it easier to process information and retain memories. So I
Mm.
don't know exactly if there's, what research there is, but girls, maybe if you get yourself your own little place and your own lovely room and maybe you're having trouble concentrating or you just want to relax, why don't you try out some of those different kinds of white noise, brown noise, or pink noise. And there's even green and violet noise. So there's a lot if you wanted to go and study and see what you felt best with. I know some people, some of the kids at school sometimes like to hear noise while they're working. I don't know if that's quite the same, but if you did find that you liked the noise and it masked other sounds in the room, that might be something that you could add to your repertoire after you pay off your credit card for the
For
exuberantly
expensive bedroom set you bought.
expensive bedroom set. Yes, 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 absolutely. So there you go.
Well, I know I've heard white noise. You put that on, like you were supposed to put it on for babies and stuff. And I guess it is to block out other sounds. It's
Yeah,
this sound in the background. And I
yeah.
think there's like a recording or an app that somebody told me about that's supposed to help you concentrate or go to sleep. But I don't find it was helpful. And I think there was another one that played ocean waves or something, which I guess
Yeah,
would be similar to the pink noise, maybe.
yeah, I think so. I believe so. I know that if you go to YouTube, you can actually see which one you like. And
Uh-huh.
I've also used, you're right, on YouTube, I've found like waterfalls and just that background noise, which is nice if you happen to be in a place where you're trying to just concentrate or focus on what you're doing, but it kind of drowns out the other things that are
But
going
I
on.
don't know that I would feel like it's relaxing. Although I take that back. The
Hmm.
other day I was walking by, there's a creek near where I live, and you
Yeah.
could hear this sound of the water running over rocks, and it
Mm.
was a certain calmness came over me. But I
Hmm.
don't know if I was trying to go to sleep that that would be helpful.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I guess that just it's maybe it's a preference for everybody and they could if they wanted to check it out, it could be something that they may or may not like. But
Mhm.
interesting. There's always something interesting out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Hmm. So let's get to the show.
Yeah, let's get to the episode.
Okay.
Welcome, sisters, to this episode of the Jesus People Sisterhood podcast, the only podcast specifically for single Christian women over 50. Today, we give a shout out to our sisters in South Dakota. Thank you for listening. We want everyone to get to know our listeners, and so we'll continue to do spotlight episodes from time to time. If you would like to share your testimony or what the Lord is doing in your life currently, or if you are leading in ministry or another field and would like to tell us about that for a Jesus Sister Excelling in the Last Third episode, please contact us at support@jesuspeoplesisterhood.com. We would love to have our listeners come and share with the sisterhood. And now, let's get to today's episode.
Hello, ladies. This episode is based on a Remnant Radio episode entitled How to Heal and Find a Healthy Church. Church Hurt, Red Flags, and Real Recovery with Josh Lewis from April 2026. We'd wanted to do an episode on finding a church since starting the podcast 2 years ago, but we didn't feel we had the correct information to share with you until now. So we're really excited to bring this episode to you today. Recently, we heard this Remnant Radio episode and felt that the information on finding a healthy church would certainly benefit our JPS sisters.
So, Josh Lewis wrote this episode because of the recent exposure of abuse and corruption in the church, especially the charismatic movement. He wanted to encourage believers who have been hurt and disillusioned to not give up on church community. And in this episode, Josh Lewis starts out giving the example of someone growing up in a culty, charismatic church.
Mhm.
As they get older, they decide they're going to go to a new church. And this one is run basically by prophecy and no accountability. So the person starts to question prophecies that never come to pass and are never being corrected or apologized for. And the person takes concerns to the leadership and they're treated as being disloyal.
Mhm.
And the person gets disillusioned with that church. So they then move to a third charismatic church where the lead guy is then caught in immoral relationships, but the elders won't fire the pastor. They won't administer any type of consequences or anything. They no discipline. So at this point, the person is in their mid to late 20s and they don't want to go to church anymore. They don't want to go to another church after all those experiences and they become completely disillusioned.
Mhm.
Maybe you're a person who's experienced abuse or neglect or these kind of issues from leadership, and it's a non-charismatic church. So no matter the type of church, you now expect to be taken advantage of in any church.
Right. That's why this Remnant Radio episode is great. It has two parts. The first part is on disillusionment, and the second part is on entrusting yourself to a healthy local church. Part one is we need to remove the illusion of what a church actually is. We have to remove any unhealthy expectation, or we're doomed to a life of isolation and solitude. Part two will be about steps to assess a healthy church and remove that disillusionment. Realize that there were bad ministers in the New Testament too. People fall into sin. It's just us. The church of Ephesus had a lot of sin. Paul wrote First Timothy because of bad elders in Ephesus. So this is nothing new. There's no perfect church anywhere, and there will always be issues. Joshua shares, based on commentaries of 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus, that number one, our elders are only human and will fail. And number two, the enemy wants us to feel alone. Joshua talks about the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal in 1 Kings 19, where Elijah thought he was the only prophet of God left and he didn't want to go on living. But that wasn't true. Obadiah had hidden 100 prophets, and there were 7,000 faithful followers who had not bowed the knee to Baal. Our enemy wanted Elijah to think he was alone, and ladies, were simply not.
I want to state that I'm not a fan of the term church hurt because to me it sounds like victim blaming. You're bitter, you're your problem. It's not the church, it's the person who's hurt. But it is the term that Josh uses often in this episode, but he uses it to refer to those who have been genuinely hurt by the church. He's not blaming them. Nevertheless, I will refer to it as disillusionment, which Josh also speaks of. And the subject of church disillusionment is something I have personally experienced repeatedly over the years. And I'll just share my own history with various church situations. If you listen to my testimony in a previous episode, I got saved in a Pentecostal group, but I didn't really attend a church. I just attended some of their meetings. I actually ended up attending a very conservative cessationist church, very conservative. And then I went on in the 40 some years that I've been a Christian. I attended non-denominational churches, reformed churches. I've been to a lot of, and different groups that maybe there wasn't a church, but different ministry groups or homeschool groups, things like that, with all different kinds of beliefs. The wide spectrum of conservatives, cessationist, legalistic to wildly charismatic. I've been to a
Huh?
lot of them. So I've seen a full spectrum, and I would say that this kind of abuse or corruption and all these things, they're widespread. It's not just one group.
Mhm.
And even though this episode, Josh does say it's not necessarily if you're in a charismatic church, it does seem like there's been so many exposures lately in the charismatic movement. But there's also something else to think about, which I just want to bring up quickly, is that I think Mike Winger said there was 300 million, over 300 million charismatic Christians in the world, and there's maybe like 80 million cessationist Christians. That's a big, big difference. If you keep that in mind, it would only make sense that there would be a lot more, you would hear a lot more about charismatic churches where there's something wrong going on because they're so much more of the Christian population. I just want to point that out. I have experienced some abuse, some spiritual abuse, some church abuse, and definitely unbiblical treatment in most of the churches I've been to. And it really didn't matter the denomination or whether they were Reformed, Charismatic, etc. There's been more than one instance where I ended up asking to the Lord, is anyone really a Christian? I didn't even like to use the term Christian anymore or godly. Oh, he's godly. I mean, I just like couldn't even use these terms anymore because I found that people I thought were godly weren't, and people that I called Christian, if they did not behave as a Christian. And I have felt like Elijah. Like, I just don't trust that anybody out there really loves Jesus.
Yeah.
But I have had some healing in that. Every so often, I do come up with that again. But what has helped is people who have been speaking up and holding people account, people in leadership
Hmm.
who are speaking up and saying, hey, people are being abused. Hey, these people who are real popular and powerful in the church and in ministries are doing bad things. And that has encouraged me.
From the very beginning of Jesus People Sisterhood, Ellie and I have prayed and searched for ways to help our sisters not just survive, but truly prosper in this last third of life. And we know the numbers are sobering. 1 in 5 single women over 65 will live at or below the poverty line. If that's you, or you're watching that possibility creep closer, we want you to know we see you. And this isn't a side issue to us, it's close to our hearts. One practical step some of our sisters have taken is shared housing, pooling resources, splitting expenses, and gaining the blessing of built in community along the way. If you have a spare room, that's part of why we started the JPS Senior Housing Facebook group to help connect sisters who could bless each other this way. We've also been asking the Lord for wisdom around finances, real, workable strategies for women in our season of life. And as He brings us ideas, we want to keep bringing them to you. Today, we want to share one that meant a lot to us personally.
I never want to stop learning. And one of the ways I keep growing my financial knowledge is by listening to people like Toby Mathis. A lot of what he teaches is aimed at younger people who still have decades to save and invest. And if you're like me, that can feel pretty discouraging because we can't go back to 30 and start over. But one thing Toby says over and over has stuck with me. Owning a business is one of the most reliable paths to financial security at any age. That's why I want to tell you about something that changed things for me. In 2020, I was unsure and a little afraid and wondering if it was too late to build something of my own. I joined the Virtual Savvy community and took their VA course. And it gave me both the practical tools like branding and learning apps like Canva and Zoom, and the confidence to actually launch my coaching practice in 2021. I wouldn't be doing what I do today without that first step. Virtual Savvy's program, the Savvy System Accelerator, walks you through starting a profitable at-home business step by step over 90 days. I want to be honest with you, of course, no course can promise you a certain outcome. And this isn't a magic fix. But I can tell you why I think it's worth considering for women in our stage of life. The startup costs are low. You work from home on your own schedule. You're not thrown in to figure it out alone. There's a real community, there's weekly coaching, and you're encouraged to pair with an accountability partner in the community. And Abby Ashley, who created it, is a delightful and genuine young woman and a sister in the Lord. If you've been feeling stuck or like the door is closed on building something new for yourself, I want to gently push you on that thought. It hasn't closed. If this program feels like it might be a fit, there's a link in the show notes for instant access and a free training as well if you just want to dip a toe in and see whether this path could be for you. Sisters, whatever you decide, please hear this. Your worth was never tied to your bank account, and God has not forgotten you in this season. This is simply one door among the ones He may be opening for you, worth a look.
And if part of you is thinking, I'm too old to learn something new, I want to remind you of what we talk about often here neuroplasticity. Your brain is capable of growing at any age, and challenging it with something new isn't just possible, it's part of what keeps you sharp and thriving for the years ahead. Don't count yourself out.
I did want to share my most recent church issue. I hope that it might be helpful to some people. And it's just an example is that I was living in a small town. I don't want to give away any particulars, but
Right.
that made it so that there weren't a lot of churches to choose from. There actually were a lot of churches in this town, but if you're in a small town, it's still just very limited, and the churches are relatively small, most of them. And I picked this church because it was continuationist, and I am continuationist now. This pastor seemed okay, but at the very beginning, in this case, the pastor and his wife had a marriage ministry. I had looked it up, and the ministry said its purpose was to stop people from getting divorced, which on the face of it sounds fine, but the thing is that sometimes people should get divorced. If somebody is abusing their spouse and is sexually immoral and is lying and cheating and all these kind of dealing treacherously with their spouse, the marriage covenant's already broken. The person should not be held in bondage. They should be able to be free and be protected by the church instead of being told they need to stay married. I would guess that there is a large amount of our listeners who can relate to that, since this is single Christian women over 50. So, several times in this church and in the service, I think they also had a marriage retreat or something. The pastor and his wife would say things like, specifically, I remember more than once telling people, your spouse is not your enemy.
Hmm.
Well, sometimes they're not, but sometimes they are. If you're being abused by your spouse, they're your enemy. It's just not correct. The enemy can use your spouse if they give themselves over to that enemy to abuse and destroy you. Certainly, there are marriages where that's happening. And it also came to realize that a lot of the couples, and this was mostly couples at this church, came there through this marriage ministry. There was probably problems in the marriage, and the women saw that, hey, the my husband is now going to church and he's in this men's group with the pastor, and they're being mentored by the pastor, and not realizing that that doesn't make any difference. Right?
Hmm.
Some of us who have been through that know that, hey, husbands do those things, but they're not really changing.
Hmm.
And I knew this, could see this, that the pastor would talking with men about lust and stuff that they're doing, and then the wives thinking that, oh, now it's resolved. When in reality, if you talk to anybody who is truly in that ministry and works with wives who've been betrayed, who've been dealt treacherously, who've been abused, etc., is that only 2% of these men actually overcome their addictions, their abusive behavior, and actually get better. And even then, that doesn't mean that the marriage will survive. But that 2%, some people say it's up to 10%. But even if you took 10%,
Yeah.
that is a very small number.
Hmm.
I think this couple is saying we saved all these marriages, and I'm saying, no, I don't think you did. But moving on from that,
Hmm.
just because that's my particular beef
Yeah.
and concern. I just sat through it and I just took it. Okay, I'm this one of the few single people in this church, and okay, I'll just not say anything. And
Right.
then it finally there was I think I'd been going there about a year, and I just put up with it because I didn't think I could find another church where I thought the preaching was okay and the worship was okay. But then the pastor let another guy get up and talk. The whole sermon was about some woman who was being mistreated by her husband, and that she might have friends that are telling her to leave that guy and that she shouldn't listen to them.
Mm.
Now, here's the issue, and the whole sermon was that, is that in all the times that these things are said, there's never ever said a disclaimer that, but if the woman is being abused, then yeah, she shouldn't stay. We want her to be protected. This advice is not for somebody who's being abused. That
Right.
was never ever said. Every time it's brought up, it's
Hmm.
never ever said. It's always about we just want to save marriages and stop divorce.
Hmm.
And that you should always choose that. You should just choose to stay in a bad marriage. That was the thing I've heard over and over. I'm a witness to it.
Hmm.
So this final time, I was so upset by this guy that I walked out. I'm like, you're not saying anything the opposite. There must be women, married women in this church
Mhm.
who are being abused and they're hearing what you're saying and they're not going to save themselves. This is unsafe.
Mhm.
And just to make sure, I went back and re-listened to the recording because they had it up on their Facebook page to make sure that after I left, I stayed for almost the whole thing, that he didn't give some disclaimer after I left. And he
Right.
did.
Okay.
So at that point, I wrote the pastor. Now, over and over again, these things were said in public, but I did not confront him in public. I wrote a letter privately, an email to him
Mhm.
saying, hey, you have consistently got this message. And I was very supportive. I said, I'm sure you have good meaning, you want to save marriages, of course, we all want that. But there are people who are in abusive marriages, and this is unsafe to never say, hey, if you're being
Mhm.
abused, first thing is to go to safety, not
Mhm.
just stay and telling them that their spouse is not their enemy.
Mhm.
So the pastor wrote back first and just wanted to talk, didn't say anything, but then he did write back. I got a DARVO email back. And for those who don't know what a DARVO stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender order. He writes back and he says, first he denied, but we would never tell anybody to stay in an abusive marriage. Well, I was witness to you at least 3 times
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
telling people to stay in an abusive marriage. It was never, ever said the opposite. It was
Mhm.
never, ever shared. I never heard it. So he denied it. And then he went on to say, because I had shared, got divorced, I was a single mom for many years, and I was an advocate for victims. And went on to say things about how, I'm my issues because of that, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
pray for your healing and blah blah. Okay, because you know what was being intimated is
Right.
that there's something wrong with me. So, and then the reverse victim and offender order. Then he said that dealing with, and I don't have the email in front of me, so I'm doing this from the as best I can recollect,
Mhm.
was that I was attacking his ministry, and this is how he was dealing with someone who was attacking his ministry.
Mhm.
Now, again, all these things they did and said over the year that I was there was
Mhm.
in public, but I did not confront him in public, even though I think biblically I had every reason and right to do so. I went
Mhm.
to him privately.
Yeah.
And for him to say that I was attacking his ministry, and it was just the accusations and the
Mm.
attack on me. And then he ended it with that I could still come to his church and that he would never, ever bring this up again. So I
Wow.
thought, yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
I,
Just
I,
hush me up after
well,
you
I
just,
wonder why I mean, if there was nothing there, Ellie, why he couldn't just produce some recording or some literature or something to back up his claim. No, no, no. We do actually not support women staying in abusive
well, I think he
relationships.
probably
Like,
told the truth in that if he actually had a conversation, they were counseling a couple,
mm,
and he found out that the wife was being abused, and what their definition of abuse is, I'm not sure. Some people, it's only if spouse is physically abused.
right,
That maybe they would say, "Oh, yeah, you need to get away from that guy."
right.
That could be true, but you can't preach in church and never make any disclaimer about that
Mhm.
because who's listening? You cannot know. You cannot wait until somebody actually comes to you and tells you, which most of the time women don't, right? They
Mhm.
don't come and aren't just going to come out and tell you that. Even if they come for counseling, it takes a while for them to maybe tell you
Right.
what's going on.
You trust. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if they're doing this marriage counseling and have this marriage ministry, they should know that.
hmm
They're
hmm
clearly not trauma informed. They are unsafe. It's just completely unsafe situation.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Oh, that's, I'm sorry you had to go through that, Ellie. That's that's not helpful in any way, shape, or form. Gee whiz.
No, no.
No.
It's sad, but I'm using that as an example because more recent church issue
Right.
that for me, now I have, okay, personally, so I didn't go to that church anymore. I honestly, it doesn't hurt me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You're
bad.
over it.
It's like at this
Yeah.
point in my
Yeah.
life, after everything I've been through,
Yeah.
that doesn't hurt me. I don't have church hurt over that, but I just see it so often. But I am sad for the people that go to that church, for the
Hmm.
women that are go to that church and don't realize they're
Hmm.
in an unsafe place. And
Hmm.
especially because it's not just the churches that this church, the pastor and his wife have a quote marriage ministry.
Right.
So that's even worse. Yeah.
Yeah, because that first initial contact with everybody and they're saying what they do and how things should be really should also involve a disclaimer there. Hey, if you're if this is the kind of relationship you're in, yeah, staying in that marriage is definitely not a safe place to be. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Wow. For the sake of time, we're stopping the recording here. We'll pick up where we left off next week.
Be blessed by him who is able to protect you from stumbling and to make you stand in the presence of his glory, blameless and with great joy. Until next time. Hey, sister, before you go, thank you for being here with us. If you were encouraged by today's episode, would you take a moment to follow or subscribe to the podcast? That way, every new episode finds you right where you are. And if you feel led, leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts helps more women just like you discover this sisterhood. We would love for you to come join us in our free private Facebook group, the Jesus People Sisterhood Community, and keep the connection going.
And we also have a Jesus People Sisterhood senior housing group if you're exploring co-living and new possibilities for this season. You can connect with us at Jesus People Sisterhood on Facebook or visit us individually for Janine at riseupcoachingandconsulting.com and for Ellie at christianlongevity.com. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for informational purposes and not professional advice. Our prayer is that this podcast blesses you. Until next time, stay connected, reach out, and welcome another sister in.